Hello, my name is Nathan Cavanaugh. I am the senior developer for CIMS, and I just wanted to go over all of the new features that we have in our 4.3 update. Starting with work orders, we've made a few enhancements. So let's pop over to a previous space that I had open and put a future burial onto. And I can go to the burial tab, and I can see here we have a burial set to be done on the 5th. So let's scroll down to the bottom where we have our work orders listed and click on New Work Order. And here we can see a typical work order for a burial that has the location information, the creation date, the name of the deceased. Let's set the task to a previously used task of burial prep. And then we'll set the priority to high. We'll set the start date to the 4th at 7:30 a.m. And then we'll set the due date to the 4th at 4 o'clock p.m. And then we can assign this to Tim. We can say the reporter was me and call my phone number when it is ready. And then I was the one to take this information down. And then this is the work to be done. We'll say open burial. And then down here we have the new enhancement of custom inputs. So these custom inputs are just some test inputs that we added in, but these would be whatever you decide. You can add those here up by clicking on the name of your cemetery in the upper left, and then click on the Edit Cemetery Settings. And then on the Advanced tab, you'll have a new entry here for work orders. Click that to auto scroll to the bottom. And then from here, you can add in your custom inputs. We have a handful here of just a select few, but you can have as many or as few as you need. So we can enter in some values here. We'll say this is a test, and then this is a number input. So we can just type in a number. We have a date picker where you can choose from the calendar or type it in directly. We have a text input. And then here's a drop-down input with the options slated in the settings. So we'll just choose that. And then from here, we can click Save. Now we see we have all of the work order information here listed, along with all of the custom inputs listed here as well. The new inputs of start time and due time are used to have more specific control over the exact time and ending of a work order. These are also reflected up in the calendar. So if we go into the calendar here, we can see that there is a work order for tomorrow that's set to begin at 7:30. If I change to a day view and then we'll go over to the 4th, we can then see it being blocked off between the appropriate times. The custom inputs here, like all other custom inputs, are searchable. So we can go to the search and then choose work order for a type. And then if we scroll down here at the bottom, we have our custom input fields. So if I do a search for test, we get back the new work order that we just created. And those are the enhancements for the work orders. In keeping with enhancements to the work orders, we've also made an enhancement to the work order progressive web app. And so if we go to our menu here and go to work orders and click on the QR code or scan this QR code with our mobile device, we can then be brought to the work order progressive web app. We have a listing of the various different work orders that have been assigned to the cemetery shown in the drop down here. It has been requested to be able to show the location of all of these work orders on the map. So we have a new button down here in the lower left that we can click to show on map, and then that brings up the map and puts a marker on the map showing the location of each of the work orders. You can return to the list by clicking the work order list, or you can tap on any one of the icons to load that particular work order's information up. And then from there, you can set it as complete, or you can click the work order list button to go back. We'll set that one to complete, and then that sends us back. And that is the new feature for the work order progressive web app. Those of you that have burial search, the publicly facing version of CIMS, know that one of the features in there is this print button that when clicked will bring up a report that shows 4 different zoom levels of the cemetery and the location of the space that is highlighted. And then from here, users can print that out and then use that to navigate to the space. It has been requested to have this added to CIMS, so that's what we've done. So you can pick a space, and then in the space tabs on the report tab, click that, and then down at the bottom there is a map to space link, click that, and it will load up the report with the 3 different zoom levels. And then from here you can adjust each of the maps if necessary, zoom them in and out if necessary, and then it'll have some additional location information as well. From here you can print or save it as a PDF. So we'll save this one as a PDF, and we can close that. And then from here go back to the ownership tab where the PDF is saved, and then go back, and there it is. So we can load that up. And then from here, you can download it or share it as necessary. A request that we've received from several cemeteries is the ability to subscribe their personal calendar to the events listed in the CIMS calendar. Now, something to keep in mind is everything that you see in CIMS, all of the space information, all the burial information, all the customer information, and including the calendar, are behind a login. You must have an active login in order to get to this information. Personal calendars like Outlook or iCal or Google Calendar, they don't have the ability to log into a web page first before pulling the information in. So, in order to allow personal calendars to subscribe to the CIMS calendar, we will need to have an option that you can get to by clicking on the cemetery name and then clicking on Edit Cemetery Settings, then the Configuration tab, and scroll down to the bottom where it says Allow CIMS Calendar Subscriptions. And when you click the checkbox, you'll have a note here saying that if you do this, the calendar entries will be viewable to the public to anybody that has or guesses the subscription URL. So let's go ahead and update the cemetery settings, and then we'll wait for the page to refresh. And now when we open up the calendar, we have a subscribe button. When you click the subscribe button, one thing to note is to choose your time zone. For me, it's Central. And then from here, you'll have instructions on how to add it to the web-based Outlook, to the Outlook application, to a iCal and a Mac, or to Google Calendar. And for each of these, you'll have a URL, and this URL right here is what you would need to use to subscribe to the calendar. We've made some updates to the searching from the left-hand flyout, so let's go ahead and open that up by clicking on the bar and then clicking at the search tab up at the top. You can see here in burials, search type of burials, we have added in the ability to search for birth date, and then that has all of the searching parameters of greater than, less than, equal to, between, not between, or even empty. And so if we did an empty search and we go, we will now get back a listing of all burials that do not have a birth date. The other search enhancements that we have done is under search type of customers. And now from here, you can search by address 1 and address 2, and along with the ability to search through communications. So if I wanted to see everybody that has had a communication type of, say, homing pigeon, we can do a search, And here we are with all of the contacts who have been communicated via homing pigeon. I can bring up the customer information and click on the communication and see that what communication was done. If you watched our previous segment, you may have noticed that at the top of the search there was a new entry. So let's open up the left-hand flyout again, and we'll take a look. Right here is the new entry for saved searches. That's right, CIMS will now allow you to save your search and then come back to it at any time. So a saved search consists of all of the values that you enter into the various different filters, whether you choose 1 or 2, or if you fill out 15 of them. So for an example, we have a saved search here for US Army customers. I can click on that and it will automatically fill in the branch, and now I can click search and get back to a list of all of the customers that have a branch of service assigned as US Army. So if we were to clear this out and then wanted to create a new search, let's just let's say, for example, we are working with markers. And we want to make sure that we have images of all of the headstones and footstones and markers in our cemetery. And we want to work through it section by section here. So we're going to start with a level select. We'll start with up here in the corner of block F. And then I want to find all of the markers that have no images. And then we'll do a search. So here are a listing of all of the markers in block F that do not have an image. And so I want to save this, and I can call this here anything I wish. We'll just say block F without media. And then we'll save that. And so now from here we can go through and start adding in various different images if necessary. So I can pull up this marker. I can come down to the media. We can add in a new media and we'll choose our files. And then from here I can pick the picture for this particular headstone. And we'll just grab this one as an example. We can upload that in and have that saved. Now I can come back, and if I am pulled away from this project where I need to go look up another burial, or I need to look up a customer, or I need to pull up information about another space, and then maybe there's a refresh that happens, and then now you are back to working on your marker project, we can go back to markers, and up at the top is the save search, where I can choose down there and I can click and automatically fill in the appropriate information and then click search. The saved searches will be available for every search type, whether that be on graves or spaces, burials, markers, deeds, permissions, work order, customer, map features, and care funds as well. You can also, if you find that you no longer need a saved search, you can click the edit icon here, which will bring up a listing of the various previous saved searches. And then if one is no longer needed, we can just hit the delete and then confirm, and then that's no longer in the list. And if I need to edit the label, we can just click into the input box, type in the new label, and click update. And our saved searches are updated, and you'll see the update reflected here in the drop-down. We really hope that these saved searches will save you a lot of time and effort. A feature that our CIMS Lite and CIMS Gold clients have had for quite a while is the ability to add and remove and update various different levels and spaces. And this is done by going into the Utilities menu and then clicking on Add Layer Space Maintenance And then from this utility window here, we can add a new section and fill out its information, or we can open up a section and we can rename a level. We can also decide to remove an entire level if necessary. But this is what has been afforded to our Gold and Light clients. Well, with the 4.3 update, we are happy to announce that while we can't give all of those same features to our Platinum clients, we are going to be offering the ability to rename the levels. So if we take a look here in the left-hand flyout and open up our cemetery here, we can see that some of the naming here may have been done by author Fonzarelli, and maybe that's just not working for us right now, and we want to rename this block back to just block A. So we can do so by clicking on Utilities and coming down to Level Maintenance. And in here we have our listing of levels. We can open that up, and then there's block A that we can open up and see. Even also there's a lot in here called lot with the redundant 1 spelled out next to it. So let's go ahead and rename block A to just A. So we click on the edit icon, and then in the input box we click in there and rename that to what it's supposed to be and hit save. And this does take a little bit of time, as it does have to work through all of the various different spaces that belong to block A and all of the various lots. But there we are, we have it renamed here. And then we can open that up, and then we can go and rename lot 1 back to just 1 by itself. That takes a little less time because there are only a handful of spaces. Oh, and this space should probably get renamed. Looks like the Fonz had some fun with mini names. Let's take care of that. And then we can close that out, and then we can close and reopen, and now we can see all of the appropriate names that are there. One of the issues that CIMS has had some trouble with in the past is handling large data sets. So for example, let's take a look here in the left flyout, again add a search type of grave or space, and then we will leave this wide open so it comes back with all of the spaces within the cemetery. Now in the search results, you get back only the first 100 results, and if you were to scroll down, once you get down to the bottom, we will load in the next 100, and so you can see now that we have 200. But if you ever wanted to look at all of the records at the same time, it would require you to click the Show All button. Now, this, depending on the size of your cemetery, could take a very long time, and in some of our largest cemeteries has been known to actually crash CIMS when that happens. But now in CIMS 4.3, we now give you the option of, when you click Show All, to download or to continue loading it on the screen. And so if you click the download, that then gives you a file that is readable in Excel of all of the same search results. We've done the same not only with search results, but also with the built-in reports that are broken up into various record sets. So things like the complete burial report, which again, due to the large size, we have to limit to 2,000 records each, but you can now click download all records, and it will then save it as a file that again could be opened up in Excel. The same thing with the other complete owner reports and other large reports as well. You may have noticed that in the top navigation bar, the Layers menu option is missing. We have moved that over into the profile menu. So in the top navigation bar of CIMS Platinum, if you click on your name, you will find the layers menu item. Click there to open up the layers, map layer settings, and then from here you can adjust the settings as necessary. An update that we have made to the layer display is now in the spaces, if a space is set to reserved and there is a reserved by assigned to that space, the reserved by name will now be displayed. So we can open that up and see that who it is reserved by. And so that is the name that will show up there as well. Sometimes cemeteries have a situation where a memorial marker is placed on the grounds, but there's no associated burial to go with that. And in the past, we have had a workaround where we have had our cemeteries create a burial type of memorial burial in order to hold the burial information or the deceased information, and then assign a marker of memorial type to that. While this workaround did allow the cemeteries to collect and display the information, it wasn't ideal because it added an extra burial count when there was no actual burial there. So in CIMS 4.3, we have updated our markers to allow them to be assigned as a memorial and then to assign a customer record to that memorial. So let's take a look here in our left flyout. We'll open that up and go to the search tab and make sure we have the search type of markers. And then down here, we now have a search type for memorial. I can click there and do a search, and this will show me all of the memorial markers that we have. We'll choose this one here, and then that brings us to the memorial marker listed here on the space. I'm not too sure who decided to choose these colors, but let's take care of that and make it a little bit easier to read. So let's go into our layer settings, and we'll come down to markers. And then from here, we can choose the color for the memorial marker. Let's just make that a little bit easier on the eyes. We want that to stand out from the standard marker color. We'll choose that. And then from here, we can decide what gets displayed on the label, and then whether we want to split the label into 1 or 2 lines, and then what font we want to choose, and then if it's bold or not, and what font size and the font color. So for right now, let's maybe go with a little bit gray, just so the color can stand out. So we'll save that, and then we'll wait for our map to update, and then hopefully this becomes significantly easier to read. So now you can see you have your standard marker shapes that you can assign, but now they are assignable with the different color, and they'll be labeled. And if we take a look here in the marker tab, if we scroll down, we can see here is the checkbox for memorial, and then who the memorial is for. And if we need to get more information about this customer, we can always click the eye and pull up that customer's information. To add a new memorial marker, first select the space where you want the marker to appear. We'll just select this space here, and then we'll go to marker, add new marker, we'll create a new. And then from here, we can choose the shape that we wish to represent the marker. We're going to go with an obelisk. This is a brand new shape that we have just added here in CIMS 4.3. We can set the size and the rotation and the position. We'll put that there, maybe a little bit higher. And then we'll click next. And then from here, you would fill out the information. So we can come down here, and I believe we have, no, we don't have an obelisk as a type, so we can rectify that by adding that in. And so now we can choose that. We can say if it has a foundation, when it was placed, payment, cost, etc. Purchased by, sold by, and inscription. Who the vendor is, if there's a vendor. And then here is the checkbox to set it as a memorial. Once you hit this checkbox, you'll then get a new input for the memorial for. So who is this for? Let's do this for my coworker Tim. And then fill out any other inputs as necessary, and then hit save. And then once the map updates, you'll see it'll have the memorial color along with the labeling, and you'll be all set. And then from here, if you go back to the search and again search for memorials, it will appear here as well. Memorial markers will also be searchable by name and burial search as well. We have added 2 new cemetery reports in CIMS 4.3. And so let's take a look at those by opening up the left-hand flyout and then clicking on the Reports tab up at the top. And then under Cemetery Reports, we can click the drop down here, and then we can see the first one that we added is the Complete Owner with Burials report. This will list out all spaces in order, including their location, their status, the owner, co-owners if any, and burials if any. And again, this can be a very large report, so you have the ability to choose a set record set or download all records as a file that can be read by Excel. Let's just generate and view this report to take a look at it. Here we have the report listing out the various levels and then the concatenation of those levels along with the status, the owner, co-owners, and interred. If there's more than one co-owners, they are separated by a semicolon, and the same thing with interred. And if there's more than one burial, they'll be listed separated by a semicolon as well. As always, with this report and all other reports, you can further filter. So if you just wanted to look at the entries in block B, you can type a B in there and it will automatically filter out all others except for those that match. You can also sort by the various different columns, and then once you have this set the way that you want, or if you wish, you can remove various columns. And then once you have that set, you can then print or download the results as an Excel file. The next report that we've added in is called the Responsible Parties Report. Again, this report can be extremely large, so you have the option to download all the records or generate and view them 2,000 rows at a time. What this report will do is list any space that is sold or sold with a burial, and it will list the owner. Except if the owner is deceased, it will then list the next of kin that is assigned to that owner. Also, it will list for the burials who the authorized by was, and if the authorized by is deceased, then whoever the next of kin in the contacts list of the authorized by. And then again for markers, whoever the purchaser was, if there was any, and again, if that purchaser is deceased, then whoever the next of kin for that marker purchaser is. So let's generate and view this report. So from here we have the spaces. We have whether it was a burial or a space itself, or as we scroll down, there will be markers that will appear. As well, we can filter. There they are. Markers. and then we have the names that are associated as the responsible party, along with their contact information. Again, you can sort, add or remove columns that you do or do not need, and then either print or download as an Excel file as well. To list somebody as a next of kin of another customer record, you would want to pull up the customer record. So for example, let's find the customer record here for Sarah Mackey, and we can open up her customer record by clicking on the eye. And then under contacts, we can click on here, and here we can see where the various different contacts are. What's new in CIMS 4.3 is the next of kin label here, and we can now edit a contact rather than having to remove and rebuild. So we can click the edit tool, and then from here we can choose the option of clicking next of kin, and then save the contact, and now it shows up as next of kin. We can also, if necessary, within the edit, adjust the relationship to whatever the appropriate relationship should be, should you need to do that, or within the edit, remove the contact if it was added in error. With CIMS 4.3, we've made some updates to the CIMS Gold map. For those that don't know, CIMS Gold is a level of CIMS that is similar to CIMS Lite, but it does include a map tab. Clicking on the map tab does display a overview of the cemetery, and then there are what we call pins that represent the various different spaces added to the map. You can click on a pin to get some additional information, and then from there visit that particular space. One of the issues that we ran into with some of our larger CIMS Gold cemeteries is that rendering these pins at various different zoom levels, when there were hundreds or even thousands of them, could slow down CIMS to a crawl. So now we have made some adjustments so that the space in question of the active space will always be displayed no matter what zoom level you're at. But at zoom levels that are lower than 20, we only display that one pin. So as you drag around the map, you will only have this one. If you zoom in closer at zoom level 20, then we display the pins for that zoom level. And if you keep zooming in, then again, we only display the pins that appear within the map. And if you scroll to another area, then we will unload the other pins and then load in the new pins. And then this effectively reduces the processing power needed in order to generate these maps. We have made enhancements to our multi-space selector tool. So for example, if you are selling a space, so let's select a random space here, and we will, in the right-hand flyout, change the status from available to sold, and then we will add in an owner. Looks like Tim is buying this one here. And then we can set the cost of $1,234.56. And then we can come down here and click Update. Now, when we go to Update, we're being asked, do we wish to apply the changes to the active space? Or do we want to select a space from all spaces listed there from the block that the same active space is in, or the lot that the active space is in? And this would allow you to choose space A and B and sell 2 spaces, or even all 4 if necessary. But we also have a brand new option, a space picker. So from here, we can now select spaces anywhere in the cemetery. And so if we wanted to select the space that we were on, we can do that and add that to the list. But we can also choose spaces from anywhere. Say even if we wanted to go to a completely different columbarium. and we can add that as well too. If you go to add a space that belongs to someone else, you will be notified with the information listed here as well. So if you've added that by accident, we can just remove the checkbox and it removes it from the list. And then from here, we can choose what kind of information we wish to save to both spaces, and then click Save. And Tim is now the proud owner of 1F40A, along with all the other spaces. And then we can click here and see he's also the proud owner of the columbarium as well. Tim, I hope the check is in the mail. And no CIMS update would be complete without some updates to the actual customer record itself. So let's pull open Tim's customer record here by clicking on the I next to his name. And now we have his customer record here. A couple of things that we have made enhancements to is the prefix and the suffix are now constants. So now they will, instead of appearing as a set list, they are now a list of constants that you will have absolute control over. And so from here, you can adjust the labeling and you can add new or remove old ones that aren't used or merge them together. The same thing with the suffix. Again, you have your list here so that you can add those or remove those or add new ones. Another update that we've done is we will be checking if the birth date is occurring before the death date. And if it does, when you attempt to update, you will be given a warning. Also, if you do make a change in any of the input fields and you attempt to close, you'll be given a warning to let you know that things have changed, and are you sure that you wish to close this, or do you want to return back to the record and save your settings. In communications, we now have the ability to add an image. So if you had a copy of a PDF or an image or something of that nature, you can certainly assign that to that communication. And you can save multiple media items as well. And as mentioned before, the contacts are now editable. So if at any time you need to make a change, you can do so. You can also mark one or multiples as their specific next of kin. And those are the updates that we've added to the customer record. Reminders was a feature that was introduced in a previous version of CIMS, and since then they've become quite popular. One minor issue with the reminders, though, is when you first log in and you have them set to appear on login or on refresh, is they can be quite overwhelming. So what we have done with CIMS 4.3 is we have now limited the reminders that appear to only those that are assigned to you. And if you are a admin of the cemetery, you will then have the option to remove the check box of only mine and then be able to see all of the reminders that are assigned. Hopefully this will cut down on the noise and increase the signal and make the reminders even more useful. At CIMS, we often get user suggestions for new features or improvements or enhancements. And one such feature from a group representing Jewish cemeteries was the ability to show the Jewish calendar dates equivalent to the Gregorian dates that have been entered. And so if we take a look here at a space here from the history, we'll load that up. And you can see that when we turn on an option in the back end to display the Jewish dates, so any date field that you have will have the Jewish date equivalent appear underneath of it. And then once we were able to calculate the Jewish date equivalent, we were also able to calculate yahrzeit. Now, yahrzeit is the Jewish tradition that commemorates the anniversary of an individual's death. But it's not a simple calculation because there are differences between the Jewish calendar and the Gregorian calendar. The biggest one is that days change based on sunset and sunrise. And so in order to do this calculation, we had to add in a few new inputs to the customer record. So let's open that up. And then we can go down to the deceased entry. And then from here, we can see that there's a place to enter for time of death, and then whether or not the death occurred after sunset. And changing this will affect the dates as well. But once you have this information entered in, we can then do a calculation of when the next yahrzeit is, not only for the upcoming one, but also for the next 5 as well. There is a arrow icon that appears next to the list that allows you to open and close those if necessary. And then this information is also displayed on the burial tab for each burial as well. Again, if you wish to be able to display the Jewish dates and the yahrzeit dates, please contact us for your cemetery and we can get that turned on for you in the back end. Also, if you do have this option turned on, there will be an extra report added to the left-hand flyout reports tab, which is a listing of the upcoming yahrzeit dates that occur between the different Fridays, which is a list of names that can be read at the synagogue services. And if you have any other specific questions, we'll be happy to address those on an individual basis. Thank you. And lastly, for CIMS 4.3, we have added the ability that in a mobile view, you can now get Latin long from a CIMS Platinum. So in order to do this, you would then set your map to wherever it is that you wish to get the information from. And then let's just say we want to get the Latin long of this corner down here. Down in the bottom, there is now an icon that we can tap. And then that will drop a marker pin into the middle of the map and give you the Latin long of the middle of that map. But now we can click and drag that marker to where we want to get the information from. And then from there, we get the Latin long. To copy that, we can click the copy icon and it puts it into the saved coordinates. And then if you close that out, you can then drag the icon to the next location that you want to get Latin long from and hit the copy coordinates, and then it adds it as another row. So you can continue to do this for as many times as you want to get coordinates for. And then once you have all the coordinates that you need, you can copy that out and send those wherever they need to go. Or if you no longer need these anymore, you can hit the clear button to clear those out and then close the box. And then if you don't need to get Latin long information anymore, you can just click the Latin long icon again and that will remove the marker. Thank you.